This is TradeFlow News, bringing you relevant news and insights from around the world. TradeFlow News, enabling trade for SMEs and economies worldwide.
These are some of the key topics that we will be looking into in today's program.
First, let's take a look at the overnight headlines which are impacting the commodity markets.
Saudi Arabia's crude oil supply to China is set to slide in March from the prior month, trade sources said on Tuesday, after the kingdom hiked its prices to the highest in more than 2 years. State oil firm Saudi Aramco will ship about 41 million barrels to China in March, a tally of allocations to Chinese refiners showed, down from February's 43.5 million barrels. The figure marks a second consecutive monthly drop of Aramco's allocation to China. Chinese state major Sinopec and Aramco's joint venture Fujian Refinery will be lifting less crude in March, while Aramco will increase its supply to PetroChina and private refiner Shinhan Petrochemical, the trade sources said.
Indian oil companies are looking to buy U.S. liquefied natural gas, LNG, buoyed by the Trump administration's lifting of a ban on export permits for new projects, Oil Secretary Pankaj Jain said on Monday. The world's fourth largest importer of LNG, India aims to raise the share of gas in its energy mix to 15% by 2030 from 6.2% now. Indian oil companies are talking to U.S. companies for additional LNG sourcing, Jain said, adding that among such companies were GAIL, India Limited, Indian Oil Corp and Bharat Petroleum Corp.
Moving on to the top news in the energy sector.
The United States is expected to boost coal exports to India after China imposed tariffs on energy imports from the US, 5 industry officials said, potentially eroding Australia and Russia's market shares in the Indian market. China's finance ministry last week said it would impose levies of 15% on imports of US coal, which the officials said could push US miners to ship to India, the world's second largest coal importer behind China. 3 US cargoes that were supposed to go to China have landed in India and around 10 more cargoes are waiting. These are huge cape sizes and that could further drag down prices, Vasudev Pamnani, director at India's iEnergy Natural Resources, said.
India's thermal coal imports are expected to fall for the second straight year in 2025 due to decreasing dependence on coal for power generation, slowing economic activity and record high inventories, industry officials said this week. All 6 Indian and international coal traders Reuters spoke with at the Coaltrans India conference in New Delhi expected shipments of the fuel to decline this year. 3 of the traders expected imports to plunge by around 10% to about 155 million metric tons. 2 of them expected a fall of 1 to 2%, while another trader forecast a 7 to 8% decline. None of the traders wanted to be identified as they were not authorized to speak to the media. Next, we have the top news in metal market. London aluminium traded in a tight range near a 3-week high on Tuesday as investors weighed the risk of a major global trade war after U.S. President Donald Trump imposed fresh tariffs on all steel and aluminium imports. 3-month aluminium on the London Metal Exchange, LME, was flat at $2,658 a metric ton as of 0751 GMT. Hovering near the 3-week high of $2,662.50 hit on Monday when Trump raised tariffs to 25% on steel and aluminium imports. However, he agreed to consider exempting Australia, noting the country was one of the few with which the U.S. had a trade surplus.
The European Union said it would respond with firm and proportionate countermeasures after U.S. President Donald Trump's decision to impose tariffs on all steel and aluminium imports, escalating fears of a trade war. Trump signed proclamations late on Monday raising the U.S. tariff rate on aluminium to 25% from his previous 10% rate and eliminating country exceptions and quota deals as well as hundreds of thousands of product-specific tariff exclusions for both metals. The measures would take effect on March 4, a White House official confirmed. The tariffs will apply to millions of tons of steel and aluminium imports from Canada, Brazil, Mexico, South Korea and other countries that have been entering the U.S. duty-free under the carve-outs.
We will now look at the top news in the agricultural sector.
Coffee futures in New York rose more than 6% on Monday in the ICE exchange to a fresh all-time high above $4.30 per pound, with some market participants citing panic in the market amid limited coffee availability. Arabica coffee futures hit a record for the 13th straight trading session. Reports of a dry, hot weather system forming over Brazil's coffee areas helped to drive the new price peaks, as farmers in the world's top grower are reluctant to sell. Panic has finally shown up, prices will continue to rise, said Bob Fish, co-founder of coffee franchise Bigby Coffee, who has 350 stores in several US states.
That is all for today's news on commodity markets. Stay tuned to TradeFlow News as we continue to provide you with more updates. We also invite you to follow us on Twitter at TradeFlow News, which allows you to watch our program on your mobile device or desktop to receive information from there.